The federal government will begin quarterly assessments of the performance of the 48 ministers in January, when their ministries would have received the budget for the 2024 fiscal year. The special advisor to the president on policy coordination, Ms. Hadiza Usman, explained that the annual scorecard will be reviewed during periodic retreats, where performances would be assessed against key performance indicators. Speaking on Tuesday, Usman stated that they are looking to commence an assessment of the respective ministries in January 2024, and they are going to have a quarterly assessment of performance, which would culminate into an annual scorecard. Before that, the presidential aide said the Federal Executive Council members would participate in a retreat in early November, where the key performance index will be defined and the ministers would sign a performance bond. She said the bond will detail the deliverables each ministry plans to achieve within the one-year 2024 budget cycle. Although she did not state in specific terms what the deliverables for each ministry would be, the former Nigeria Port Authority Managing Director affirmed that the deliverables must align with 2024 budgetary provisions. And over 100 mini electricity grids are currently in operation across the country, making Nigeria one of the largest mini grid markets in Africa, the federal government revealed on Tuesday. It disclosed this through the Rural Electrification Agency, a federal government organization, during the signing of a memorandum of understanding between the REA and the Africa Mini Grid Developers Association in Abuja. Partners in the deal signed the MOU to further promote and accelerate mini grid development in Nigeria, with focus on knowledge sharing, capacity building, and better coordination of the sector, among other initiatives. The managing director of the agency, Hamad Salihijo, stated that Nigeria has one of the largest mini grid markets in Africa, with over 100 mini grids currently in operation, primarily through the implementation of data-driven programs and initiatives of the Rural Electrification Agency. He, however, stated that due to the energy access gap across the country, there was still a significant need for more decentralized energy interventions to bridge the energy deficit and catalyze socio-economic growth, particularly in rural, underserved communities. Salihijo said the REA had over the years expanded its partnership portfolio while collaborating with stakeholders across the off-grid energy value chain. Talking labor matter now, as organized labor has issued a 2-week deadline to governors to commence negotiations on the 35,000 naira wage award for workers in their states, in line with the terms of the Memorandum of Understanding signed by the federal government, Nigeria Labour Congress, and the Trade Union Congress. The state chapters of the NLC and TUC, which handed down the ultimatum on Tuesday, said they had written to the governors to fast-track the necessary protocols and implement the award meant to assuage the subsidy removal pains. The unions pointed out that the deadline for payment of the wage award would expire in the next 2 weeks, and they asked the governors to begin the implementation process. This came as President Bola Tinubu on Tuesday inaugurated the 1 trillion naira cash transfer program to 15 million households to cushion the economic shocks of the fuel subsidy removal. Each household will receive 25,000 naira for 3 months, with 15 million households getting 25,000 naira each for 3 months, as about 1.13 trillion naira will be spent on the program. At the event, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta Edu, said about 61 million Nigerians would benefit from the cash transfer. Let's take you to the National Assembly now, where in the Red Chamber, the House of Representatives has directed the Committee on Public Accounts to look into claims of improper handling of COVID-19 intervention funding. The order came from a motion moved on Tuesday during plenary by Inyakwa Zakari, a PDP member from Adamawa State. Zakari claimed in his motion that numerous ministries and organizations misused the COVID-19 intervention monies during the pandemic. The parliamentarian said that the federal government budget had earmarked more than 183.9 billion naira for the intervention money, adding that money was donated to the coffers by other international donors. The alleged mishandling, according to Mr. Zachary, was detailed in one of the Auditor General's reports. He said that the poor handling would discourage future donations to Nigeria from donor organizations. Speaking on the motion, Borno APC member Ahmed Jaha stated that the probe was essential because the House has already been charged with receiving benefits from the COVID-19 intervention money. And as part of strategies to beat high operating costs in the aviation industry, domestic airlines have increased the number of flight seats, allowing more travelers to commute and boost revenue. The president of the National Association of Nigeria Travel Agencies, Susan Akpuriaye, responding to the effect of foreign exchange scarcity, said the new development was part of coping mechanisms employed by airline owners to increase the capacity of their airlines amid dwindling revenue. According to her, the lower seats, although cheaper, were to drive up the average seats per departure and translate into lower per seat costs. She said nothing has changed in the operating cost yet due to the fluctuating exchange rate, which is affecting operating costs. The only thing that has changed is that airlines are beginning to release the lower seats. Aviation experts have expressed deep worries over the potential negative impact of the recent increase in airfares on the aviation industry, occasioned by the scarcity of foreign exchange, amongst other challenges. Though the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, had promised to resolve issues facing the sector, experts said poor implementation of policy regulation was a bane affecting the industry. Now, two human rights organizations, Center for Information Technology and Development and Avocats Sans Frontières France, also known as Lawyers Without Borders, on Tuesday warned the federal government against controlling the digital space. The JO said controlling the digital space will be counterproductive and antithetical to turning the country into a digital economy. Organizations expressed concern that the government, on one hand, recognizes the potentials of digital technology to transform the economy, but also wants to control the way in which citizens were able to access and deploy digital means independently. They issued a warning in Abuja during the inaugural meeting and training of the Digital Rights Expert Group under the e-Rights project in Nigeria, implemented by ASF in partnership with CITAD and Spaces for Change, funded by the European Union. At the event, the country director, ASF France Nigeria, Angela Uzoma Iwuchukwu, stressed the need for government not to put in place arbitrary legislation that will breach or restrict the enjoyment of human rights in Nigeria. Uzoma Iwuchukwu said, rather, the government should work with the different developers and technological platforms to ensure that there is regulation within those organizations in line with international standards. She warned that attempts to restrict or regulate the social media by bringing in obnoxious laws and policies will have a direct impact on the enjoyment of freedom of expression of Nigerians, stressing the need for the National Assembly not to pass obnoxious bills.